Hello, Mr. Fry's Algebra 1B students. This is coming from your notes. I had a hard time finding it, and here it was in your notes. I think it's pages 9 through 13 of your notes. So this is what you guys were doing on, let me see, 3-8. And I believe it's due tomorrow, so probably due 3-9. So taking a look at these odd problems. I'm not sure if you started here. I came to the class late, but I have these problems here for you anyways, using systems of equations to solve word problems. The sum of two numbers is 30 and their difference is 12. Find the two numbers. So here I have the sum of the two numbers equaling 30 and the difference equaling 12. This is set up to use elimination perfectly. So I eliminate when I add these two systems, these two equations up. This cancels out and I get 2x plus 42. 30 plus 12 is 42. In order to get x by itself, I divide both sides by 2. I get x equals 21. I go ahead and plug that 21 back into, either one you choose, you'll get the same answer. I chose the first one, so in order to get y by itself, I get 30 minus 21, and I get 9. Pause this as needed as you move forward. For number 3, the difference between two numbers is 9, and the first number plus twice the other number is 27. The first number plus twice the other number is 27. The difference is 9. What I did was I changed the first one. I multiplied every term by -1. So I just changed the signs, in other words, for each term in order for me to, when I add these together, these x's are going to cancel. I'm going to use elimination again. And I am going to have 3y equals 18. Now, if you used substitution, you could use that too, and you'll get the same answer. And so I got my y equals 6. I plugged the y equals 6 back into the first problem because that looked like the easier one. And I have, I add 6 to both sides, so x equals 15. Taking a look at number 5, the sum of two numbers is 20. The difference between 3 times the first number and twice the second is 40. Find the two numbers. So this time I'm going to use substitution. So I'm just going to set my x equal to negative y plus 20. I just subtract y from both sides in this first equation. Then this tells me what x equals. So I'm going to take this value and I'm going to plug it into that x value. And then I'm going to use the distributive property in this problem to just work with y's, and I end up getting y equals 4 with that algebra, combining like terms and isolating the variable. Then I plug in my y value into the easiest problem, which was the first one, and I just solve for x, and I get x equals 16. So for number 7, the cost of 3 boxes of envelopes and 4 boxes of notebook paper is $13.25. 2 boxes of envelopes and 6 boxes of notebook paper cost $17. Find the cost of each. So I just set these problems up to have similar terms so I could use the elimination method. What I did was I multiplied the first. I looked at these x's. I could have done the y's, but I ended up using the x's. And I multiplied the first by 2 in order to get 6x, and I multiplied everything on the bottom, each term, by -3, so I could have a -6x, so that these would cancel out. And then I end up with -10y equals -24.5 when I multiplied this by 2 and multiplied this by -3. So I take -24.5 divided by -10 to get y by itself, and I get 245 for the notebook paper. Working on the x then, I plug that y value in to I chose the second problem. Either one you choose, you're going to get the same answer. I plug that 245 in for y, and then I isolate the x, and I get 115 for the envelopes. For number 9, Gabby and Sydney bought some pens and pencils. Gabby bought 4 pens and 5 pencils for $6.71. Sydney bought 5 pens and 3 pencils for $7.12. Find the cost of each. So here's the 4 pens and 5 pencils for $6.71, and the 5 pens and 3 pencils for $7.12. Okay, I had to come up with something that I could use in order to use elimination. So I multiplied the top by 3. I'm looking at the y's here. So I multiplied by 3, and then I multiplied everything in the bottom by -5. And that's how I changed these two. These cancel, these cancel out. 12x minus 25x gave me the -13x. Okay, draw an arrow to that. And then $20.13 minus 35.60 gave me a -15.47. I divide both sides by -13, and I get my pens equaling $1.19. I plug that $1.19 into, I chose the second one. It didn't really matter. They're both equally as difficult, I think. And I just solve for y, and I get 39 cents for the pencils. Taking a look at number 11. You have all this information with the cost of a smaller mower and a larger mower. And what I do here is I change this so that I could use it in substitution. I just get x by itself, and I plug that into x. The smaller mower price, and you have the larger mower price, and what they equal total. I use the distributive property here. You can see that I combine like terms, and I isolated the variable, and I figured out that they sold 11 larger mowers. Now, in order to find the smaller mowers, I plugged that that 11 into y. And the easier problem, which is the first problem, obviously. If you wanted to choose the second one, you could, but that's a lot of calculating. So this is the easiest, and just do 30 minus 11, you get 19. They sold 19 smaller mowers. For number 14, we have the two systems of the two equations, creating the system of equations listed here. And I just changed the first equation to equal, what x would equal. So I isolated x. I plugged that x value in, and I solved for y, because now I was just dealing with y's, and you can see how I did that. Sorry how sloppy this was. I was doing the wrong thing for a second there, and I ended up getting 13 popcorns being sold. Okay, and I plugged that 13 into this first problem, okay, because that's the easier one. And in order to solve for the x, or the hot dogs, 40 minus the 13 gave me 27 hot dogs. For number 15, talking about the tickets to the musical. And so what I did was, just the easiest thing to do here would be substitution and just solve for x, so subtract y from both sides. I plug that value in for x, and then I start working with the prices, okay, and how they equal the total amount. Use the distributive property, combine like terms, isolate the variable, okay, and you should get 186 student tickets were sold. I plugged in the 186 for student tickets in order to figure out the adult tickets, which were x, and that was 135. Now, how do I know x and y? Well, x was the adult, x was the student, because I put the 350, the adult tickets, x was 350. So I had my 350 with the x, so that made my adult tickets. And then the 250 student tickets, as it says, was 250. And I put the 250 with the y, so that's going to be the student. So my y is the student when I solve that. 16, if you wanted help, even though I'm not doing those, I could show this to you. This one was 330, so here is the work for number 16. I just solved for x, put that value in for x, use the distributive property, combine like terms, isolate the variable. Once I figured out my y value, I plugged it into the easier problem, which was the first one, solved for x, and I got x is 24. So the x would be, the x were the dimes, and the y was the nickels. Okay. Just making sure on that. 17, your information for 17. Once again, nickels and quarters for working with money. I did this one in class with some students. So you could take a look at the steps here. It begins here. And I just solve for x, plug that in for the x value. So then I'm just dealing with y's. And then I isolate the variable. I ended up getting y equals 14 quarters. Substitute that in for this problem here. What plus 14 gave me, what plus 14 gave me how many nickels, and I ended up with 28 nickels. Yeah, I just took, it was 42 minus the 14. I just went right into that problem. Okay. All right. And so for number 19, your math teacher tells you that the next test is worth 100 points and contains 38 problems. So with that information, I get 38 problems, x plus y equals 38. And then multiple choice are 2 points, and the word problems are 5 points, and there's 100 points. So I just changed this so I could do substitution. I get x by itself on one side, substitute that value in for x. So then I'm just doing y's, dealing with y's, and I figure out my y value by combining like terms and isolating the variable, and I get 8 word problems. I plug in that 8 to that first one. So what plus 8 equals 38? Well, 30 would. So that would be x equals 30, so there's 30 multiple choice problems. Okay, and I think that's it. Good luck on the evens, and if you're making mistakes, don't worry about it. As long as you solve them and correct those mistakes, you're doing fine.